Hello, everybody. I'm Tessa Hebditch, CEO of Chickpea, your finance transformation partners who are passionate about people. So, we're here today to explore what's wrecking your month end close and how to fix it. There is an accompanying white paper which does explore the full breadth of our 10 time thieves and the three areas which we recommend you transform. So, why are we here? Well, unfortunately, despite heavy investments in automation tech and fancy dashboards, nearly 50% of finance teams still spend at least 6 business days wrestling with their month end close. So, we are here to try and fix that. So, as I mentioned in the accompanying white paper, there are 10 time thieves, but we're exploring four of those in which there is one specific area which I think you should transform to fix all four. So let's first talk about the problem. What are those four time thieves? So we have our automation islands. This is where you are bridging gaps in the tools that you are using, and you're bridging those gaps manually. We also have number two, double handling of data. This kind of sounds similar, but it's where you have multiple teams duplicating the master of the data, so no single source of truth within your organization. We also have number three, disconnected data. Again, these names make these things sound very similar, but this is where you have different data languages within the systems you're using. So there's nothing unique about the data that you're holding in multiple systems that can bring that data together. And then we have the fourth one, which is our reporting bottlenecks. So quite a different one here, but this is often the final and the most painful step in the month end process. So think about things like manual data entry. You might be downloading things into Excel and re-uploading them into a nicer format. You also then have the formatting issues. So potentially what you're extracting doesn't fall into a really nice format for you, and also endless revisions of those reports. It's not a simple click a button and it's perfect. So yes, we're going to be talking about those four time thieves. So just to recap, those four are automation islands, double handling of data, disconnected data, and your reporting bottlenecks. And what they all have in common is a lack of proper integration. So these four happen when your systems don't talk to each other. So the fix here, and the one area that we're exploring to fix these things, is systems and integrations. Now, I want to talk through the fix with four, sorry, it's a bit of a magic number today, four different topics. I want to talk about quick wins. I want to talk about a long-term roadmap. I want to talk about continuous improvement. And finally, I'm going to give you a bonus action that you can implement in your own organizations. So let's start with the quick win. This is a do this right now topic. So what you need to do right now is to map out your data flow. So to get this done, and I will share an example in a minute, but to get this done, it's worth scheduling a kind of short 30 to 60 minutes, maybe just a short meeting with key stakeholders. And like I say, do this now. So I want you to do this before the end of the week if you can. And what we do here is we visually map the flow of the data in your core systems. So that's systems around the organization. Don't just think within finance, because you're probably receiving information from other teams. So I say a lot, finance are the messengers of the data. We receive a lot of stuff kind of upstream in the processes. So explore the organization as a whole. What you want to then do is identify and list those immediate kind of manual workarounds that you can see and any data duplications. So think about where the data's flowing and is a manual intervention to get the data into a different system, and where master data points are being held. So an example would be your list of customers. Where is that data held and how does it transfer between the systems, or maybe it doesn't? Maybe it is entered manually into both separately. So identify all those key points. From that identification and that visual map, you can take a step back and start to highlight where the quickest integration opportunities exist and start there. So start by automating your top manual reconciliation pain points. And that's a great place to start. So I want to share with you something I'm not necessarily proud of, but just to demonstrate a point of my first ever system map that I created. Now I've gone back into the archives to find this for you. The reason being is it's not perfect, it's a bit messy, but it is something you guys can absolutely do. You do not need to be an expert, you do not need to be a business analyst to recreate this. This was in my early days, in my early career. So hopefully you can see that on the screen now. Looks chaotic, you probably can't read it, but don't panic, I'll explain. So what I have in the middle is the finance system or ERP that this company was using. I then have different types of arrows indicating whether there is direct integration, where data moves automatically, maybe there's some kind of download upload routine, or where things are very manual. You can see those in red. So different arrows for me represented different types of data flow. I then indicated in these boxes here what data actually sat in each of those systems, and that helped me identify where there was duplication of those master data points. So going back to that kind of customer point, I could see where customers were being entered as if it were raw data, to essentially see where it's duplicated. And the problem with that kind of duplication of master data and not having a single source of truth is that any data will fall out of sync quite quickly. And what that means is you can never be sure who has the right source of information. Another basic example, it could be customer address. Maybe people in your operations team are the first people to understand if that changes. They'll put it into their system, but there's no connect with the finance system. Therefore, we're billing the wrong company or the wrong address. So those are the kind of things that can fall out of sync very quickly if we don't keep them integrated. Also on here, I indicated some specific pain points. So you can see these orange boxes. So those were just things like whether we had manual integration, whether there were no unique references, so there was some kind of manual manipulation before we could then import it into the new system. So anything which is a bit tricky within each of those processes. So that is kind of step one, mapping out your data flows. This then reveals kind of very easy to address gaps that hopefully will save you days of that kind of manual effort each month. Like I say, this is a do this now. The do this now exercise is mapping your data flow and then highlighting your quickest integration opportunities and starting there. So that's your quick win. The next type of fix is your long-term roadmap. So with this, think about the next 1 to 3 months. That's kind of length of the roadmap in this fix. So I want you here to establish some clear roles and meeting guidelines. So what we can do is we can clearly define the roles and responsibilities through your month end using a simple accountability framework. So the most simple, which I use time and time again, is a RACI. So that's RACI, RACI. It stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. I will show you an example of one. It's not a month end one, but it's an example of a RACI, just to kind of explain what that means shortly. You then want to kind of set firm guidelines on that meeting frequency. So think about how frequent you meet and why, the attendees, the purpose, the expected outcomes. Really make it clear what those meetings are for and make sure they add value. Then train your team. So the kind of meetings are taking over our lives at the moment, but that kind of efficient meeting management should be something that your teams are trained in. What they need to do is they need to set clear agendas. They need to have shorter durations. So don't book something in for 30 minutes, an hour, just because that's about the time. If it's 20 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, book it in for the correct time and really have those concise follow-ups. There's some great AI tools now that do kind of meeting minutes and Debriefs, like really think about exploring those too, and regularly audit your meetings. This isn't a one and done exercise. We should be constantly removing or reducing meetings that add little value. So I've got a couple of examples here to share with you. So first I have the RACI. Now this RACI was created for a data migration work stream, but hopefully it demonstrates the point. So down your left-hand side, you should have all your month-end tasks. And to be fair, in a RACI, they can be fairly high level. You don't necessarily need to do like a step-by-step. The more detailed, the more clear it is, but it can be fairly high level at this point. So along the top, you should have names of people. So these were roles, that's project management, SMEs, data lead, etc. Within this data migration work stream. But for you guys, you should really have your the people's names, specific names. So again, it's really clear who is doing what. Then for each task within your month end, you should put the corresponding letter. So is this person responsible for this task? Is this person accountable for this task? Does this person need to be consulted? Or does this person simply just need to be informed? And that will give you a really good starting point for who is doing what. If you do this activity at a fairly high level, what you can then do is assign to maybe different team leads within your organization, and they can then do their own RACI for the kind of breakdown of the more detailed tasks with their team members' names across the top. So you can do a kind of high level one and then keep breaking them down until everyone's kind of named and included. So that's a RACI. What I also touched on was that meeting agenda point. So I just want to share the one that we use within a Chickpea. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. I'll just make it bigger. So this is our agenda. It's a bit chaotic with the colors, but hopefully it just demonstrates the point. So very obvious things to think about in a meeting, and with Outlook, you don't necessarily need to include this on the agenda because that's included in your calendar. But the date and time of the meeting and the place, very important. Often on Teams these days, but if it's face to face, it's obviously really important that that's clear. What you then need is the meeting purpose. So this one's really important because sometimes we meet with a bit of a wishy-washy agenda. We really need to understand what the purpose of the meeting is because that kind of dictates what the outcome needs to be. And then within the detailed agenda, think about the topic or item that you'll be discussing, how much time is allocated to that part of the meeting, and who will be facilitating that section. It might all be you if you're creating the meeting, but it just makes it clear that if someone else is facilitating, they might need to do a bit of homework or remind themselves what they're covering. So it just makes it really clear what the expectations are. And then my favorite piece here is the aim. So what are we aiming to do with this item or this topic in the agenda? Is it simply for information? You're just providing some information. Is there going to be a discussion? Do you want feedback on what you're demonstrating in this part of the meeting? And or is it a decision that needs to be made? Now, these are really clear. You can obviously replace them with your own kind of aims and the breakdown of that. But these ones, I think, provide the right level and provide the three distinct areas of what a meeting contains. Is it information only? Is it a discussion? Or will we be making a decision in the meeting? What you can then do is expand this another column and have the outcome of that topic. So it can be a nice way to debrief the team is they've all seen the agenda, and then any meeting minutes can be included in another column on the right hand side. So that's a really nice way to break down your agenda. So with creating and establishing those clear roles, those meeting guidelines, it essentially focuses the team up to focus more strategically rather than reactively. If everyone really understands what they're doing throughout the month end, then they're not going to be surprised or panicked if something's not quite ready because it should be ready because people know what they're doing. And don't just think about it again within finance. Think about who you're waiting for information from and include them in that understanding and that racing. So that was our long-term roadmap. And when I say long-term, that's kind of 1 to 3 months targets. You want to get those implemented. Then we have continuous improvement. So one thing I love, and if you follow me on LinkedIn or see any of my posts, you'll know that I'm obsessed with agile project management. And one thing that we do in agile project management are stand-ups. Stand-ups are called stand-ups because back in the day, you would literally stand up. I actually struggle to get people to stand up on a Teams call. So, but they are still called stand-ups, and we want to be doing these daily. And I recommend during your month end, you start these now. So integrating those daily stand-ups, preferably at the start of the day. And if daily feels a bit much, like feel free to do every other day, but it does need to be quite regular. And it's really like a 10-15 minute stand-up where each team member will briefly share what tasks they've completed yesterday, tasks they plan for today, and any blockers or concerns. And that really addresses issues immediately. What you don't want to use the session for is necessarily to fix those issues immediately, unless they are kind of quick fixes. But we want to keep that time box safe. So we don't want to go over that 10 or 15 minutes that you've dictated. So what you might need to do is delegate resolution, which will happen outside the stand up. So, whoever's facilitating this session, don't think that you have to resolve everything, but people have to be clear if an action's expected of them. So, in that session, you might be saying, um, Jane, please go and help so and so resolve this issue outside the stand up and come back and let us know how you've got on tomorrow, or if it needs to be escalated, contact someone else or me. But make sure that the path to resolution is clear during that stand up. And it might need follow up meetings as well. That's absolutely fine. So, like I say, keep these fast paced, keep them consistent. So try and do them at the same time every day. So that expectation's set. And although I know you'd like to think everyone's in at 9 ready to work, I wouldn't recommend you do them at 9 just for the sake of it. Like give people a bit of chance to settle in and start their day and check their emails and things. And make sure that these sessions are really action oriented. So make sure you come out with a clear list of actions and who's doing what. So within all those kind of your long-term roadmap, your quick win, your continuous improvement, we will quickly remove some of those bottlenecks. We will quickly see some clarity start forming, and we will quickly see people aligning across the team as well and across the organization. Let's not forget, we in finance are the messengers. So we rely on lots of other people to give us data and information. And so to end, I'm going to give you a bit of a bonus action. And please feel free to give me feedback on if you've done any of these bits. I recommend that you run a monthly meeting detox. So once a month, get your team together, a short session, don't make this too cumbersome or too long, and identify and eliminate unnecessary meetings together. So an easy question to kind of ask when you're looking at all the meetings that happen across the team. So make sure everyone comes with the meetings that they have on a regular basis, is really to ask, is this meeting essential? Is this meeting efficient? And is this meeting outcome focused? Now, people can be a bit nervous about removing meetings. So, if you celebrate any of those meetings that you either eliminate completely or actually shorten in length, um, then celebrate. So, publicly show the time savings across the team where relevant. And that's a really nice way to encourage people to get out of these kind of meeting cycles that just aren't essential, efficient, or outcome focused. What we then want to do is make sure we are using any of that reclaimed time proactively. So we can start doing some more month end efficiency savings in that save time, maybe even recharge. Like finance teams, especially through month ends, are pretty busy. There's a real risk in finance teams of burnout. So maybe that time efficiency is actually you can take a bit more time doing a value added task. Maybe you can proactively plan the rest of your month, your next month end, but just make sure that time is used in a really useful way. So that concludes our webinar. Like I say, there is an accompanying white paper, which I can share the link with everybody who's joined today. But really, by taking that immediate action and starting now, it really gets the ball rolling. So please think about the bonus action, the continuous improvement, and your quick win, and get that done now. It really helps build momentum as well. So if people can see that things are working, then it really helps getting them engaged in the longer term plan too. So this is thinking about role clarity, streamlining your meetings, and continuously refining those interactions so that your month end becomes clearer, it becomes calmer, and you have a really kind of succinct operating model or system architecture, if you like, within your month end close process. So that's it for today. Hopefully, you found that very useful. Please feel free to give me any feedback, and I'll hopefully see you on another one of these soon. Thank you. Bye.